Music spoke to me in a way that no other music did. I love the British invasions. I just didn't relate to it. This music did for a kid from South Buffalo. When I was 10, my dad handed me a copy of Creedence Clearwater Revival's Green River and said, as dads do, play like this. He's an iconic singer, songwriter, guitarist. He's defined an entire genre of music, and he's a living example of inspiration and character. For those reasons, so many more, I'm honored to present NAMM's 2023 Music for Life Award to Mr. John Fogerty. Well, we're going to get another award before we start. All right, on the X, we're going to do a quick photo of this one.
I understand here.
You're going to sit here, and I'm going to do this real quick, and then we're going to get down to business.
My kids would say, Dad, did you get your reward?
All right, we good? Oh, here we go, John. Ladies and gentlemen, John Fogerty's here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, have a seat, please, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well, what can I say but thank you for being here. You know, this is an audience of the industry, the people that have brought all these wonderful products that we all use as artists. And so that's who we're talking about here. We're celebrating them. We're trying to leave them inspired. You've led a life of inspiration. And so I guess my first question is, there's so many takeaways from your career, but I'd like to actually go back. Your inspiration, you know, you served in the military during the Vietnam War, and it must have shaped how you viewed the world. I'd like to go back to that moment, and how did that experience of service shape you as a young songwriter?
Well, certainly I had a perspective that was quite different than my hippie friends, let's say. But back then, you know, there was such a sense of we're all in this together with the generation that was my generation. You know, we kind of came of age. Now we call ourselves boomers, but back then we were the kids. And the first thing we really got vocal about was the Vietnam War and our displeasure with it. There's a lot of confusing and complex emotions and feelings, and I try to make it brief here, but I think it was the first time a whole generation was questioning the policy and trying to understand, well, what's it for? As a matter of fact, when the thing was over in 1974, I remember telling myself, let's make sure we never do this again. Of course, it didn't work. But because we were told a bunch of non-truths about why, and so a lot of those feelings certainly came out in my songwriting, especially Fortunate Son, which was just a laser flaming arrow at that whole subject. Now remember, I had already been in the Army, so it wasn't like I was running away or, you know, the way some of the, let's say, conservative folks try to paint anybody who questions authority. But I had a viewpoint about it, especially sending our kids off, and I still feel very deeply about this. So you can send your young men and women off to die basically for business reasons, you know, some corporation, especially oil. Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah, sorry.
But anyway,
look at the time.
But you know what I'm saying, and so I couldn't help myself. I had to talk about it, so I did.
You know, the other thing I know that period for you was you had a work ethic. And again, these people, we all get up and go to work in the morning, and you looked at it that way. You called your rehearsal place the factory. I mean, where did that work ethic come from that you really applied to? Maybe some of the other San Francisco bands at the time didn't think that way, but you had a work ethic.
Boy, that's really true, and nobody talks about that much, to me at least. I think it's my mom especially. You know, my folks were from Montana. My wife, my dear wife, Julie, is from Indiana, and we talk about this a lot. She has Midwest values. This next week we're doing our 32nd wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
And so, yeah, that sense that you've got to get up and get things going. You know, you can't. The typical picture of a musician is that he sleeps till, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the afternoon and parties all night.
Yeah.
You know, like that Kiss song. I just thought that anything worthwhile was, this is something I actually say a lot, anything worthwhile is going to have some work attached to it. I brought something, you've given me a perfect chance to talk about this. I got off active duty in the summer of 1967. I was in the Army Reserves. And for the first time I decided I needed to get organized. So I went, you know, with my songwriting. Usually up until then, for the first 22 years of my life, is there a napkin somewhere? Is there a crayon or something? I have lipstick, I can write my words down. So I went down to the local drugstore in the Bay Area, and I bought a little vinyl binder and put some paper in it. And I was basically, I didn't really know what it was going to be, but I wanted to collect my songwriting, right? What really evolved, it became titles, okay? I didn't know that when I first bought it.
That's the one, that's the actual book.
This is the one that I bought in 1967. I think it was like September. And I brought it home and, you know, put it on a table and said, okay, I'm going to put my ideas in here. I just wanted to show you that the very first thing, it took a few days, if not even a week or two, I had this idea in my head, and the phrase was Proud Mary. So I wrote it down. It's the very first thing I wrote in the book.
Oh my God.
Right? There's a few other...
That was just free-flowing out of your creative...
Right, and along down the line, this third thing is Sinister Purpose, which became a song. Bad Moon Rising is near the bottom of that page. And I was pretty efficient, so I wrote on both sides. Effigy is right here on the back of the first page.
I spilled something on that one. What happened on that one?
That was probably coffee. And it turns out at the top of that page, but it's funny, it's the word copy grind. And what I would do is I would write down titles. You know, I didn't know that when I started. Eventually I would also write down maybe a phrase. So that was September or so, the fall of '67. So in about June of '68, I received my honorable discharge from the Army. And I was so happy about that. It was the height of the Vietnam War. I turned a little cartwheel on the lawn, a little bit of grass in front of my apartment house, and I went in the house and grabbed my Rickenbacker and started strumming, and the first phrase out of my mouth was, "Let the good job in the city." And so I'm doing these different things with the guitar, and I start to get some phrases together. Well, what is this? It seems to be about a river and something, and wow, I better look in my book. So, you know, by then there was probably only 3 or 4 pages with words on it, and the rest was, I've added more paper, by the way, over the years. But anyway, I look down here, and the very first thing is Proud Mary, and I'm writing this thing about, you know, seems to be on the river, and let the, you know, I'm going to be going off to another world, and Proud Mary, Proud Mary. Oh, that's the name of a boat. That could be a boat. Wow, this is about a riverboat. And so what I'm trying to say is that was 9 months later, something like that. And for the very first time, the process worked. Wow. And that's, you know, for me, I mean, God works in really mysterious ways. And I just think that I was guided from this step to that step to that step. Also, I do want to express something. Okay, how many people in here were in a band in high school? Yeah, exactly. We all love music. That's why we're here. And we ended up maybe doing other things connected to music. Mine sort of stayed right in the band situation. But when I finished writing, or pretty much about 90% of Proud Mary was written right within that hour. And I'd been writing little ditties all my life since I'd been about 3-4 years old. But I was sitting there with the piece of paper that was a completed song, and it was called Proud Mary, and it had Rollin', Rollin' on the River. And I said, this is a classic. For the first time in my life, I admired all the songwriters through time. And I knew it sitting there, that I had written a great song, and it was such I was the only one in the universe that knew it. It's such an amazing self-awareness. I was humbled that it came straight from God, and that, that radio station we get to tune into sometimes. So I knew that it was something really wonderful. And I dare say, as I sat there, I thought, God, I hope I can do this again.
It looks like the book paid off.
Yeah.
A lot of us remember our first music teacher, our first time walked into a music store and smelled the instruments. Growing up, any memories of that, as how that impacted your life?
Well, in junior high, I went to Portalaw Junior High School in El Cerrito, where I grew up, and they had a wonderful music teacher named Mrs. Stark. And what was so great about her was not only did she love music like we all do in this room, she expressed that and talked to me like I mattered. She talked to me, I'm a kid, right? And I'm playing away on the piano, with my rock and roll chords. She was excited and encouraging about it. There was never any negative statements that, well, that music doesn't matter, or that's dumb, or any of that. One time she had me bring my, record collection of 45s, like maybe, she tolerated maybe 12 or 13 records. I remember I played I'm Walkin' by Fats Domino for the rest of the class. She just wanted to have me share music. Also in that room, by the way, there was a piano, and basically my band was formed in that room. I would run down there after school. That wasn't when my class was, but there was a piano in there, and I just started. I'm a very shy person, so don't get me wrong here. I never thought I could be in front of an audience or anything, but somehow I could play the piano, and I knew "Do You Want to Dance?" Let's see, a little bit of Flight of the Bumblebee, Bumble Boogie that I had learned from my mom's 78 record. There were a few others I could play. And kids would gather because this was sort of right on the stairwell that went by the gymnasium.
Yeah.
It was sort of a good location. Really.
But they heard this and they thought,
yeah, kids would come in, they heard rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And I met two guys from Creedence in that room. We, later on formed a band. But Mrs. Stark would allow me to do that, and I think that sort of encouragement, that and her absolute joy about music certainly inspired me.
The power of a music teacher,
yes,
to inspire someone to achieve, or as you said earlier, the power of a music teacher to end someone's aspirations. The teachers are where it all starts. They can really send someone on a positive light with a word, a phrase, an inspirational moment. Teachers are everything to this industry, if you ask me. We can't live without them. We cannot live without our music teachers.
Yeah. Well, I do know that, I was thinking about this a while ago, if somebody tells you, and we've all heard this one, well, you're no good. You're never going to go anywhere. You're not going to make it. You should try something else. And I think we've all heard it. And my thought about that is, if that actually stops you, you probably weren't destined to be a musician at the vocation. Yeah. But the real point of this is we all love music, and we get to experience it, whether it's our job or we do something on the side of it. We still can love music the rest of our life.
Yeah, and find our place. and
Yeah.
find our place in it. Bands, you asked how many people played in bands. To me, that was always it, a band. That was the aspiration. You had a band and you could hear the places. You could hear, there was enough space that you could hear every instrument. That's what I loved about your band. And now you have a band with your kids. So tell us how that started. Was this a long, drawn-out, COVID-related thing, or did it just spontaneously, how did you start forming a band with your kids?
Well, the kids sort of, let me say it this way. I had all the kids take piano lessons when they were kind of young.
Yeah.
Before they were, strong enough to just say, nah, I don't want to do that.
I want to practice.
But I didn't want to be that person, with a ruler on the knuckles and all that sort of thing. I just wanted to expose them to music in a sort of structured way. But then I allowed that to stop. Later, especially the two boys, Tyler and Shane, they started asking me questions because by now they were starting to see, oh, Dad plays music, huh? I mean, one of my favorite memories is Shane being about 13, I think. Said, Dad, come upstairs. I want you to show me something. And so he's got his computer, and it's iTunes, and he's got Back in Black, and he wants me to show him the guitar lick, which is exactly how I thought at his age.
Yeah.
But frankly, I didn't know the lick. I mean, I knew of it.
Yeah.
But since AC/DC kind of came after my formative years, that wasn't one of the things I had learned as Holy Grail. I learned Suzy Q, 20 years or more earlier. Actually, it's more like 40 years earlier. Anyway, so I sat there and listened to it, and I grabbed, oh yeah, it goes like, it was always one of my favorite licks, but I wasn't driving the car, I was just a passenger. So I got to show that to Shane. A little later, our daughter Kelsey, who was always interested in music, she just sort of would shyly be around the guitar, and I suggested, well, maybe we should take guitar lessons, because she would have me show her a chord or something. But here's the secret. So I said, I'm going to arrange guitar lessons. And I went to every single guitar lesson with her. I drove her and then sat in the little cubicle where the guy was, and I had an extra chair. And as I told you earlier, it was basically, that was how I got to have daughter time with my child. And, she loved it so much. She started that, I think, about the 8th or 9th grade. She's now at NYU, and she's in the Gallatin program there, and has taken some music, specific music courses, but a lot of stuff like tech and media and publicity and those sort of things too, and the history of it. So anyway, you asked a specific question, and there I go rambling. COVID happened, and we were all in lockdown. And my beautiful wife, Julie, who is full of inspiration and wonderful ideas. If I get to sit here long enough, you'll hear a few stories, but this was a killer. It was a great one. She said, well, you guys all play. Why don't you just all play together? And there it was right under my nose, and I hadn't done anything with it. And so we sat down, the four of us, and started playing songs. Uh-oh. Fire alarm. That's the bell. They're trying to get me to end.
I think it's time, yeah.
Attention. This is an emergency. Leave the building through marked exits.
All right.
Do not use elevators.
Ops, what do we do here?